Hi y'all, welcome to the 4th episode of the Rebel Knitter Podcast. I'm Emmy. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Ravelry. I am CineEmi. If you're on Facebook, we have I have a page called The Rebel Knitter. And on Ravelry, we have a group for the podcast called the Rebel Knitter Podcast. If you're a first-time viewer, welcome. If you're the usual viewer, which is usually my family members, welcome back. I would like to apologize for last week. I got some direct messages on Instagram asking if I was okay. I found out afterwards that I had a temperature of 101 and I really shouldn't have been shooting or uploading. I kind of just did I didn't edit that much, I don't think. I kind of just was like, I don't care, let's just upload it. It's been so late, I don't even remember what I said, but I had a temperature of 101, and I just babbled, which usually I babble, but that I kind of afterwards felt like I had no plan. I usually have a plan. Like right now, this week I have my computer, I have a different setup, I'm still in my room, you can see my bed, and I have this because I'm cold. I don't know why, I'm just freezing right now. I don't have a temperature, I'm just cold. But under my tripod, I decided to put my tripod on my chair and sit on my desk, because then I can have my computer right under the tripod. And even though I'm still looking down, it's there. So like if I get off track, I can just quickly look down and see where I am. So let's see. This week I'm going to try to make it better, because I have that, but those of you who know me know I babble, especially about knitting. I babble all the time about knitting. My mom has gotten to the point where I don't think she even listens to half of what I say when I babble about knitting. She just goes, that's nice, is that for me? Thank you. Okay, so things I forgot to mention last week because I was on a fever and really didn't remember much. Like my brain, just like when I started recording, just cut off. So I would like to, I sent a link to my cousin Kim in North Carolina. She recently started loom knitting, which I found out my parents went to one of our relatives' birthday parties, which I couldn't go to because I was sick. And my cousin, who I love, she is one of my favorite people. She recently started loom knitting, so I would like to welcome her to the knitting community. When I started knitting again, I started with loom knitting because, like if you remember the first episode I mentioned, because of incidences in the hospital when I was little and IVs and things and straight needles, I have a weird phobia for straight needles. And so like I started with loom knitting and kind of slowly went back to regular knitting with circulars. So I would like to welcome her and say hi. This week I'm going to try and do a short episode, knowing me, probably 25 to 30 minutes. But hopefully it'll be shorter than that. I didn't really have much to do this week. Really I didn't really feel well at the beginning of the week. So really the only places I've been are really the allergist. No, it's not allergist. I keep forgetting it's not allergist. It's ENT that gives me my allergy shots. I changed offices, so I've really only been there, and it's a really far drive. So by the time I get back home, I don't really want to go anywhere else. And recently, my allergy shot's been making me feel kind of bad. For like 24 hours afterwards, I feel like crap. But the good thing about the new office is I can get my allergy shots on Fridays because they're open. So I, can deal with the after effects on the weekend. Knitting things that happened this week. Let's see. Okay, so I've been reorganizing my room. I've been doing that for a while. I do it in slow bits, small bits, and then other places get messy and I have to clean those back up in small bits. And this week I've been trying to focus on my knitting area over there that this week you can't see. And I used to, where I kept my works in progresses would be in this pink basket I got in college to keep things knitting in. It's a knitting basket. It had a top, which actually I found. And I've just kept them in there. And usually I had like 1 or 2. Recently I've been getting into more. And the good thing about it was everything was in one place. Bad thing was if you're doing multiple projects, and I like to switch between projects, they tend to get all knotted together, and then it's just really unfortunate. I remember like Christmas this year, I brought the basket with me because I couldn't decide what I wanted to work on at Christmas at my grandparents' house. And I was sitting there next to my cousin Katie, and I was like, I can't do any of these. They're all knotted together, and I can't. So I had to wait until I got home and take them out one at a time, take the ball of yarn and kind of pull it through other balls, and it just was unfortunate. Now that I've always had at least one project bag. I got one for a gift from a friend in college. Actually, it was Sky. She probably doesn't remember because I don't remember everything I've given her. And it was like sophomore year, I think she gave it to me, back when I was when I started crocheting. And she gave me a project bag, and I used it mainly to keep notions and things, and I didn't really use it for what purpose was for it. But recently, since I've got more project bags and learning that you're supposed to put a project in them, and that's, you know, where you keep it, I've started keeping my projects in those, and I really like it because, you know, you have a project in a bag, and then while you're working on it, you just, you know, unzip it, work on it. When you're done, put it back, zip, and they all go, you know, you can squish them and things. And what was happening with me though was like the basket, since it didn't have a top, like dust if I didn't work on it for a while, or other things. I know I once, like, I knit on my bed, or I knit on the couch in the Florida room. And the Florida room, I tend, because I have the whole couch to myself, so I lay down and knit on there. And so like I have a blanket and stuff, because we used to have a cat and hair got everywhere. And so what we did is we put like a sheet down on the couch, and then we'd have a blanket. So it's kind of like a mini bed. When I'm sick, I tend to lay on that instead of in my room, because I can I can sleep on an incline. It's not the most comfortable place to sleep, but when I'm sick, I don't care. And I usually, when I'm done knitting in there, I would leave whatever I was knitting on the couch, so that when the next day when I went back in there, you know, I could just pick it up and start back over. But multiple times, someone will come and want to use the couch, or specifically my mother is cleaning up, and accidentally, not knowing what they're doing, pull out a bunch of stitches, enough that I can't fix it. It'd be just too much trouble to fix it, and it's a lot less trouble just to rip it all out and have to start over. My mom's felt bad about that before, but it's happened like 3 or 4 times. So, so this has been a lot more helpful. It's, you know, I don't lose stitches. If I'm worried about that, I put like a little stopper on the end, which on the couch thing, the stoppers really don't help if someone accidentally knocks it when they're moving. But these, you know, you can put them anywhere and people can get into them, but I mean, like, they don't really get damaged all that much. So yeah, things that have happened this week. Well, okay, so I don't have any finished objects. I meant to have my mom's finished object done, the socks done by Valentine's Day, since they're my first pair of socks, and I'm doing 2 at a time. That did not work out. She has put them on, like, because I was testing to see the heel and stuff, if I was doing it correctly, because I fear I'm doing it wrong. They actually fit her. I found out that she has wider feet than me. So they fit me wonderfully. Hers are a little bit tight, but I think when I block, I'm going to just block them a little bit so that they fit her feet more. And, but so far it's coming. She really likes them. Though I keep saying I really like them, you know, I can't wait to make myself a pair, which I'm not going to make that same pattern. What I mean is I can't wait to make myself a pair of socks. And she's like, well, then why don't you just keep them? And I'm like, they're for you. I'm not going to keep something. I'm one of those people, if I say I'm going to knit something for someone and actually start it, it tends up being for them. If I say I'm knitting something for myself and then someone else says they like it, then it tends to actually go to them. That's happened with my mother multiple times. But so like I don't have I don't have any finished projects. my Irish shawl and my Estonian lace shawl, both of them, like the way they're constructed, like the Estonian lace is the same pattern until you get to the end, and it kind of looks similar until you get to like the very top where it's just obvious that it's not all that much. So that, I think I said in a previous episode, I'm not going to show until it's close to done or done. And same with the Irish shawl. It's kind of the same pattern all the way until you get to the end and you have to do the cool bind off. It just looks the same thing, just a tiny bit bigger, and it doesn't really, the whole thing doesn't fit in the camera anymore. So I'm like, I'm just going to wait until I'm done with that. So I have 3 works in progress knitting and 1 potential sewing thing. I've been thinking about learning to sew for a while now. It's the main reason I started wanted to learn to sew was because of I'm petite. I claim 5'3", 5'2 3/4. So I'm petite, and pants in the petite section I don't really like. I like the pants in the regular section. They're awesome. And it used to be until a couple years ago my grandmother would hem my pants for me. But then a couple years ago she kind of started going, she's fine, but she started memory-wise and the way she felt, she started going downhill. She's 90 now, so you know, that's probably normal. She had a sewing machine and like something happened with it, and I kind of think she used that as an excuse not to sew again. So my aunt and mom decided to, you know, get her a new sewing machine because that was something she loved to do. When I was little, she actually taught me how to sew on a sewing machine, and I made a bag that until recently, it went everywhere with me, but now I have no earthly idea where it is. But it was like a nice bag, and she taught me how to sew that, and she was just really into sewing, but she just hasn't done it, and she was like, I have a perfectly good sewing machine, why'd you buy me one? And so she hasn't really sewn since then, and I kind of think she's using an excuse. She doesn't really feel like sewing. And so I asked Mom, when I was thinking about it in December, I started realizing that, hey, Mama has a sewing machine she's not using. You know, maybe I could, you know, use that. And I was thinking about going over there and using it, and then I was like, but then I don't have time. You know, I don't really want to spend. My grandparents' house is really hot, and I do not do well in hot. I have eczema, and for some odd reason, when I get hot, my eczema is like, you need to scratch. So I was like, I thought about it, and then Craftsy had the Unlimited, and I got that. And I've been watching a ton of videos, mainly knitting videos recently, sock ones. Once I get I really want to get a pair of, a skein of the self-striping socks. I really want those. I really want Nomadic yarns, and there are a couple others that I like, but Nomadic yarns, I really want the, I think it's the Luna Lovegood. It's either the Luna Lovegood or the Tonks. I can't remember which one. I know I love McGonagall too. Okay, I want to get all 3 of them. I want to get at least one of them. I want to get, and I want to do the Susan B. Anderson toe-up sock, the Smooth Operator. But I was like, that's gonna. I have to save up the money for that, and that's probably gonna be a while off. But why did I get into that? I lost my train of thought. Oh, the crafty classes. So I started watching the sewing ones, and a lot of things came back to me. I remember, you know, back stitching and other things. So, and following the guide and following the guide on the side, not the needle. I learned that the hard way when I was little. So I was like, you know, this looks like I can do it. And then I was thinking, after I, you know, hem my pants, maybe I like making things. I was like, I like project bags, but I can't really afford them. So I was like, maybe I can make my own, and then if I get really good at it, maybe I can put some up in my Etsy shop, because, you know, people like project bags, and I enjoy sewing. I found that out recently. I actually do enjoy sewing. So one of the things I forgot last week was when I was out that day that I had to get my blood taken twice for different tests and hadn't been able to eat anything for the first ones because you had to be fasting, and I had taken a bunch of medicine that morning because I have health things that, which actually, because of Plexus, I found out during my physical that I used to be deficient in a lot of different areas, and since I started taking the Plexus, I am not deficient in anything but slightly deficient in vitamin D, which I can just take a gummy for. Everything else is perfectly fine with all my vitamins and stuff, which before I've never been undeficient in anything. Like I was always calcium, B12, iron, always, no matter what I did. So I'm really excited about that. That day I don't really remember much. I'm starting to remember more now. Like as it goes on, more things are coming to me. But I was just like really low on blood and hadn't eaten and all that stuff, and it all converged into one. So I don't really remember. I remember being at Hobby Lobby. I don't actually remember checking out. But what I checked out with was fabric. And I think I did an okay job with pairing them up, but I got this American flag fabric, and I think that's going to be the outside of a drawstring bag, and then this is going to be the inside. And then I got 3 other fabrics that are going to be the outsides, and then one inside that I think I vaguely remember saying 3 yards of. But these are all, I got a yard just to test out. This was 50% off, so I got a St. Patrick's Day one. And as my family is mainly Irish-Scottish, I love that day. And then my family really loves the peanuts, so I got a peanuts one. There was like a Winnie the Pooh ones that I really wanted to get, but I was like, I don't want to get a ton, which I think I remember thinking that, but I'm not 100% sure. I remember thinking that like days beforehand when I was contemplating getting fabric, but not 100% sure. Mickey Mouse. Love Mickey and Minnie Mouse. They are adorable. And then I think I got this because it's like white but with a grayish tinge. So I'm like, I'm thinking it'll go good with all of these. Not 100% sure, but these are most likely going to be for me. If I like how they look, I'll get more. And again, cold. So my works in progress for knitting. Alright, so last week I started the Ravelry Olympics project, and I started a shawl, the Girl from the Grocery Store, which I love the pattern and I love it. But I started realizing the way I do my knitting, which is I work on one project, usually one project a day. Like specifically with the Irish shawls, my socks, I was knitting at the same time. And I would do, at that time, I could do one pattern repeat of the Irish shawl a day until it got too many. And so I would do that, and then I would work on the socks afterwards. Usually, like I said in a previous episode, I knit my socks like 5-10 minutes before bed because it relaxes me. So I do a couple rows every night. So that's kind of different. Socks, do a little every day. But all the other projects is one project a day, and recently also I've been working on my socks more, so it's like that other projects have kind of fallen off, so I'm not doing them as much. But I realized later in the, like a couple of days ago, that like I can't, with all the things I'm knitting right now, I just can't, I'm not going to be able to finish the shawl by the end of the 2-week period. I've never been able to knit something unless it's a hat in 2 weeks. Just the way, because I like to have multiple projects. So this, even though I'm calling it my Olympic cast on instead of my Ravelry Olympics project. I haven't done a ton because again I've been mainly working on the socks. But it's a little bit more than last time, and I've been trying a new thing for me, which is kind of weaving in as you go. At the bottom I did it like with a needle, but up here I'm trying this thing I learned from a YouTube video where you kind of like weave in and out, which I'm a little bit hesitant about because they said once you get it a certain amount away, you can just cut it off and it'll be fine. I'm keeping the strings because I'm like, I'm going to block it first because it's really easy to tug on these. So I'm a little bit skeptical, but this is for me, so I'm like, if something happens with it, it'll be my fault. And I'm the only one who'll have to care. But I'm testing that out just to see how it works, and if it really does work, I'm going to use it on other projects because I hate weaving in, like really hate weaving in. And so that is in my this week, okay, I mentioned before, and you've seen the kit, that I'm doing a mystery knit-along for the 3 Irish girls and Leading Men Fiber Arts. They're doing a mystery knit-along called Love Letters, which the pattern actually came out on the 13th, even though it wasn't supposed to come out to the 14th, but I was already in bed when I got the email. So I couldn't start it right then, so I waited until the next morning, and I wound up all 4 balls because I couldn't decide. They gave you an option if you want it to be bold or romantic, so you could use all 4 in the first clue, which I haven't gotten very far into the first clue. But I was like,